Fear and Hunger is an immersive sim survival horror game developed by a single Finnish developer mostly named Miro Haverin. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's basically a nightmare-fueled world that to me seems highly inspired by things like Dark Souls and Silent Hill if they had a baby and turn-based combat. The development company is technically called Happy Paintings, which yes, whenever I see this game, the first thing I think of is the happiest of paintings. There's 4 classes to choose from. The Mercenary, who is extremely adaptable, the Knight, who excels at close combat, a Dark Priest with a frail body but very powerful magic, and the Barbarian, who is pretty much just a survivor. I mean, this guy can do it all. Which I personally typically pick the Barbarian because he's extremely adaptable, like I said, and you get the chance to give him a fun little name. And probably only old fucks like me will actually get this joke, so yeah. And yeah, I'm aware that he's technically an outlander, but, you know, tomato testicles. You're greeted with a small opening cutscene of you standing in front of the dungeons of Fear and Hunger. And you get a backstory, which you get to select different options, choosing your weapon and different skills along the way. I'm more of a close combat guy, so I go for the axe and shield myself. You can even learn the Devour skill if you are so inclined, which will allow you to devour fallen enemies. Yes, you can eat them, and it actually restores your hunger, which is a constant threat in this game. Once you finish up, it's time to make your way inside, or you can hang around outside. There are a lot of handy items in these barrels and crates, but you will eventually hear a barking. And I would not recommend sticking around to see what that is, because especially if you're new, you're going to get your ass handed to you more than likely. But then again, item management is very important, so, no risk, no reward. But until you get your bearings, though, I would suggest staying on your toes and being very alert to everything. But once you do make your way inside, get ready for pretty much everything macabre and dark. And when I say dark, I mean dark. You'll find a lot of books, references, and markings to the old gods, which I always thought was pretty cool, being very big into H.P. Lovecraft type stuff. I felt it kind of scratched that itch. When you first enter this place, it's going to be increasingly obvious that something very bad has happened here. Most items that look like you can pick them up, you probably can. There's very interesting items in this game, not limited to, but including pine cones.
They said bad, hurtful things to me. They called me tasty cakes, and they would beat me and stick pine cones in my ass.
Which in all reality would not surprise me if that happened to us in this game. But the enemies are very disturbing. A lot of them I can't really show you on YouTube because of guideline purposes, but combat is turn-based, and I mean, you can aim for legs, arms, torso, head. Most of the time I would suggest aiming for the torso or the head, unless they're holding a knife or a weapon of some kind, because that way when you destroy the torso or the head, it kills them outright. When you destroy the legs or the arms, it just dismembers them. And you can also dismember other appendages. You can find new armor, weapons, hell, even a pipe, if you need to smoke a little bit of that wacky tobacco to get your mind in the right place. Yes, in this game, you also have to keep an eye on your mind, because you can go insane, and it's pretty much a game over if that happens. So I would suggest keeping an eye on that too. You do things like smoke, drink alcohol, other things to increase your mind. Which again gives me very big H.P. Lovecraft vibes, because most H.P. Lovecraft games, they have a high emphasis on your sanity, which this game will take a toll on it in the real and game world, because this game has some of the most messed up stuff I've ever seen in a pixel game. I mean, you've got piles of dead bodies, you're able to eat people and even attack potential party members. I mean, yes, you can recruit them, but you can also just kill them. And it's pretty much player choice oriented. There's actually a lot more choice in this game than you would suspect by looking at it. And surprisingly, this game is actually made using RPG Maker, which, I mean, I know a lot of people are very familiar with it, but it's an extremely ambitious RPG Maker project. I mean, I played a lot of them back in the day, downloading them off the internet and stuff like that, people's projects, and this one is on a whole other level. Typically, you know, they were Final Fantasy knockoffs, sort of, most of the time anyway. And this one just took the RPG Maker thing in a completely different direction. I honestly am not sure if I've ever seen anyone actually go for an extremely horror-oriented experience like this one. And like I said at the beginning of the video, it being made by mostly one man from Finland shows that it's mostly a labor of love, the way the video games used to be. I mean, I'm not saying that most video games nowadays are complete trash or anything like that, but you can definitely feel the love in classic titles, you know, that they had something that they needed to get out as an artist. And that's kind of what I feel like he's going for here. Like he's kind of created his own thing with this. I've played other great horror titles in the pixel art style, like Lone Survivor, Uncanny Valley, other things of that nature, but nothing that's quite given me the ominous feeling that I get when I'm playing this game. There's something completely foreboding about it that makes you just kind of freaked out about what you're going to find around the next corner. There are actually quite a few books in this game, which I find extremely interesting. I mean, I always have ever since games like Oblivion, Skyrim, stuff like that. And it's really cool that it actually has its own pixel art for each kind of book. So you're not just going to be looking at the same looking pages every time that you open up a new one, which comes back right around to the whole labor of love thing I was talking about. You can tell with the amount of small, minute details that are put into this game that it was a passion project, you know? And I actually heard in an interview, he said that he came up with the idea for Fear and Hunger when he used to pose hypothetical questions to his classmates about, you know, really messed up scenarios and dungeons, just to see what they would say. And you can tell that he took that formula here and bumped it up to 11. There are quite a few immersive sim aspects, like certain items that you can pick up, ailments that you can get, you know, being able to light candles, other things of that nature, which really make it feel more lived in, if that makes any sense. I definitely wouldn't recommend playing this around anyone too young, though, because in this shot here, I had to cut off a certain body part before I could show the recording because I was afraid that I would get flagged by YouTube. As I mentioned before, you can find new party members, but you need to be extremely careful with their health as well, because once they're dead, unless you have a certain item, they are dead for good. And I definitely like that. I feel like it gives it a lot more risk. You know, you feel like you have something to lose. And kind of, for me, brings back in some more immersive sim type stuff, which he definitely touched on more in Fear and Hunger 2, which I plan on doing a review of that game pretty soon. So if you like this one, maybe check that one out once I get done with it. But that one takes what we see here and bumps it up even higher. I mean, you'll just have to see some of the stuff if you haven't seen it before. It's out there, dude. It's crazy. But I appreciate all you guys watching my video. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you feel like it, go ahead and like and subscribe to the video. It really helped me out. Till next time, I'm the Doc.